the weekly feed. I'm Kyle Meredith. I am sitting here with Matt Shultz of Cage the Elephant. Sir.
Oh, that's me.
That's
Hi.
you. Welcome to the interview.
How's it going?
And welcome kind of back home. I mean, this
Yes.
is a Kentucky show. We were just talking before the interview here.
Mm-hmm.
You said this is like the first time you've played Kentucky. You're on tour with the Black Keys right now since, I don't know, a little tiny club in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
It's the first time we've played here since we released Melophobia back in October last year, and that was just kind of like a secret show that we did at Tidball's, which Tidball's is a bar in Bowling Green where we played our first ever Cage the Elephant concert, and we always go back there.
It's gotta be insane. Is it Tidball? You play on the floor there, right? That's
essentially.
Yeah, right.
It's this crazy, super high, 4-inch elevated stage.
It's different than the stadium shows. Yeah.
But they have this really cool chain that's across the ceiling, and I always hang upside down. No,
of course you do. Of course you do.
No, I love Tidball's. It's one of those venues that that's not known necessarily for the extraordinary sound, but more the atmosphere.
It's like the rented PAs on the
yeah,
side.
totally, absolutely.
It's cool though. You know, the great thing about your story, and you know, there's been plenty talked about, you know, coming from the small town Kentucky and everything, is like everything you have against you when you're from a small town anywhere. To have risen to where you guys have, like, it's crazy. Did it ever feel like? I mean, I know you guys had to escape, essentially, to kind of make it, and I guess that's what happened, but it ever seemed like, man, we really do. We have just got to get as far away from our past if we're ever going to make this happen.
I think you have shades of that in every single day. But you know, there were a lot of hurdles to get over. Being from a small town, first off, to get out where, you know, to get exposure and get in front of people and people who could help. So we would drive down to Nashville every weekend and play at like 12th and Porter or 3rd and Lindsley. There was this place called Windows Over the Cumberland we used to play.
Yeah.
We'd drive up here and play at, what was that place? The Tavern, maybe?
Up here?
Yeah, is that here or?
I know there's a...
What was there was a place that we used to play here a lot. We'd also play in Lexington. I swear there's this place that has this massive ceiling fan here in Louisville.
I don't think I know it.
Phoenix Hill, there we go. So we used to play there all the time.
Phoenix Hill.
Phoenix Hill.
We've all done our dues at Phoenix Hill.
So we would do like 3 shows a weekend, and once we got out of Bowling Green, we moved to England, and it was something that was always like this, this chip on our shoulder that was kind of hurled on us. That, you know, I mean,
that's your origin story, and it suddenly becomes very sexy to the media.
Well, kind of, but then they betray you. You know, then it's like, oh, these are hicks from Kentucky.
Right.
You know, and
you got to deal with that. You don't have an accent. Did you ever was that ever called like, oh man? Especially when you're
if we're from Kentucky, we all have accents.
Yeah, right. I don't hear it. Yeah, right. But I can imagine over in Europe and everything. It's like, you know.
Well, you know, I mean, they just quickly tried to paint us as this dumb party band, and over the years, you just have to continue to follow through and do what you do, and hopefully, people will see more, that there's more to the story than just your place of origin, or maybe they can see past, you know, some people want to believe that where you're from dictates your intelligence level, which is hilarious, you know. I thought that was dictated by, you know, genetics.
but every place has their stereotypes.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, so that was something to get over, and honestly, and it was funny because it did become a chip on our shoulder for years, and it was something that, for some reason in my youth, I was a bit ashamed of, but, you know, as the years have passed by, I mean, Kentucky is one of the fondest places in my memory. I love Kentucky. Every time, it's so weird. As soon as we got here today, I finished a lyric in a song that I've been just searching for so long, and it's just like, I think it has something to do with the humility that's here and just the humble nature. and so that I don't feel like this need to boost up my ego, so I can really be in touch with like honesty and transparency.
Yeah.
So I love Kentucky.
I find that interesting with a lot of people though. I mean, you said it earlier. You kind of shun your past.
Yeah.
And eventually, it's not so much that you have to come back; it's that you just give in.
I mean,
Yeah.
the people are great here. It's like some of the most gorgeous landscape in the country.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of great artists that have come out of Kentucky. My Morning Jacket.
Sure. Bonnie Prince Billy right here in town.
Yeah, totally.
And Cage the Elephant.
Cage the Elephant.
Yeah.
Morning Teleportation. Sleeper Agent. There's been a lot of great bands. So.
And it makes it kind of a homecoming show for you guys. Do you have family that's going to be?
Oh yeah, my dad is driving up. My little brother's going to be here. I know that several of the band members have family.
See, there's that whole backstory of yours about how rock music was shunned in your household, but now they show up. Like, are they all supportive?
Well, it wasn't.
Do they listen? Oh, did that get blown out?
That was an over dramatized version of the story.
Yeah.
Which
is a good story if it was true.
Yeah. Well, basically, my dad was just trying to be a good parent and keep his young children away from heavily drug-influenced music.
But now you're playing the. At least
totally,
it sounds heavily drug-influenced.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's a huge supporter. When I quit the football team and started a band, he was the first one to be like cheering me on.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So it wasn't the whole, forehead smack and what have I done wrong?
No.
Where have I gone wrong with my sons?
No, quite the opposite.
The new record, Melophobia, I guess it's a year old now. Report card time. This was supposed to be the album that you guys stretched out on. This is supposed to be the album that you found your identity. As once again the press release would say and everything, the album that you wanted to stop
That's what
being.
They always say.
Yeah, the album that you wanted to stop being compared to everybody else. I mean, you're a year, and it usually does take a bit of time for perspective. I mean, how's it? Has it changed any? Have you been looking at it, going, we hit it or missed it by that much, or?
I think you can always find different areas to grow in. I think that we definitely made a more transparent record than the last and than anything we've ever done. I feel like we've really worked on our communication skills. Music and any art at its barest form is communication. I think art for art's sake sucks.
Sure.
Like if you are an artiste, you probably are more into fashion and trends.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like we made some really great discoveries on this record that I hope to continue to apply to the creative process. I don't know if we found our voice.
Yeah.
I think we definitely found a method and, or not even necessarily a method or a formula, but I think we discovered some elements that are very important to unlocking creativity. And so hopefully in the future we can continue to do those things.
Yeah, I guess that's what's interesting, because a band comes out and that's the band, that's their sound and everything. And to hear a band coming out of record 3, going into record 4, saying, no, we're still trying to figure out who we are. And it is hard. That's always been your thing, explain Cage the Elephant. What do they sound like? Well, I don't know, they're a rock band.
I always tell people, and easiest said, it's in the rock and roll
right,
world.
Yeah, but to actually hear you guys saying, it's like, oh, we're still trying to figure that out ourselves. Like, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think that we're in a time where there's so much collective culture and knowledge that it's hard to pinpoint something. Rock and roll means so many different things to so many different people. So, but we just want to make music that inspires us and that says something and that holds some of the nuances of the music that we love from the past, and also, hopefully is stretching out and searching for new things to add to it. And
do you ever get worried about, with fan expectations, the way they come around, like, fans hardcore fall in love with the band, and you guys have a very big fan base at this point. And the more you kind of experiment, there's always that chance that you're going to go in a direction that they're not going to be up for. And that's what, there are bands historically that have been fined, like they purposefully have changed their sound because they didn't want certain fans, like, or whatever it was, like the old stories about Pearl Jam not wanting the meatheads,
Oh, wow.
or something like that, but as you guys are kind of fiddling around, like that's possible. you know, you go this way and they're like, nah, I can't go there.
I think what we're trying to do is shed that kind of writing, though. We don't want image projecting based creativity. We just don't want to, like, you know, make music to be perceived as intellectual or to be perceived as poetic or even, you know, accessible or whatever. Hopefully the thing that our fans are getting into is just an openness to change and growth, and, you know, we try to write music that we're into at that time or whatever's happening, and yes, there's always a fear where you're like, have we gone too far this time? But, you know, in a weird way, I think it's become kind of a bit expected that it might be a little unexpected.
Sure,
so,
sure.
You know,
You guys have pulled that off.
just try to write good songs that connect with people and great hooks. That's one thing that I always admired about David Bowie is, you know, I mean, he's several different shades of gray, you know, like, or whatever color you want to, you know. I mean, he's just all over the place in his style, and but he always wrote fantastic songs.
And each album completely different from the last.
Totally, with incredible choruses, wildly imaginative lyrics, and hopefully we can kind of do the same. So.
It's funny how many interviews we've done over the past few years where David Bowie is the ultimate touchstone. If you want to be a great rock and roller, which, you know, and I don't know, because at one point you can say artist, but there's something about the theatrics he puts into it, you know, because it's thinking beyond more than just, I have to go out there and strum this guitar for a crowd, you know, it becomes a whole big picture, but it's really interesting. But I have noticed, like, the sea change over the past few years, you know, 15, 20 years ago, you know, a band, once they were a sound, they were really afraid to get out. But I do see more and more bands, it's like, meh, we don't really have to be defined by a sound anymore. It is starting to change, so.
I hope that catches on. I mean, that was one of the great things about the 60s and the 70s, and it's probably one of the reasons why we as a civilization have become so hung up on the 60s and 70s, because you can't pin it down. You know, all your favorite bands, I mean, you were like waiting to hear what their next record was like.
Right.
You wanted, like, I mean, I didn't live in the 60s and 70s, but I can imagine.
But we all know about it, right?
But it's kind of like, you know, you want to get the record and you want to see how the band has changed. Even the pictures, it's like, oh my gosh, John Lennon grew his hair out.
And think that's for like in 6-month periods.
Totally,
too,
yeah, that's
one
the
to the
craziest
other.
thing.
Like,
yeah.
I would kind of like to see that come back, you know? Maybe less touring, more albums. That's coming as a fan. As an artist, that's got to be.
No, that'd be incredible.
Yeah.
I think that would be great.
Like, you guys would already be releasing that next record probably a month ago.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I'm right there with you. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
We're working on a new record, and
which is kind of fast. I mean, that's a quick turnaround for you guys to already be kind of messing around.
Well, it was weird because usually I can kind of predict when creativity is going to start creeping in, and or at least a resurgence of creativity, you know. But this time, it just started happening, and it was like, wow, that's cool. And I kept on being like, it's not happening yet, you know, trying to disregard it. But a lot of ideas have come in, and hopefully there's still a long way to go, a lot of growth to happen and new discoveries, but pretty excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens next on this one.
Yeah,
LP4 right around the corner.
Yeah, totally.
And then LP5 right around the corner.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah,
dude,
totally.
It's been really fun to catch up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
All right.